Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Blue. Let's go ahead and dig right into this. I saw this a couple days ago, and it's kind of interesting, I want to say. It turns out that and again, my Florida people, I'm going to need y'all to calm down. This is one of those episodes where it's a law enforcement officer. He's been doing some crazy stuff. Mr. Jemiah Thomas. Test, man. You're supposed to be protecting and serving. But let's go ahead and get right into the video. We're going to see what the Sheriff Gregory Tony got to say about Mr. Thomas. And as usual, go ahead and like and subscribe if you like the stuff that I got going on here. I'd like for all y'all to come back and, see all the ridiculousness that's going on in the world with the police force. And if I'm talking too much, as usual, I provide a link to the full video in the description. But let's go ahead. I'm going to talk as little as I possibly can. Let's do this.
And I'm just going to update the community in the general scheme of, over the last 5 years, I've continued to echo this message across this entire county that this office will be transparent and we're going to be accountable. Meaning, when we know, this community is going to know. And the repercussions behind us knowing is someone is going to be held accountable to the degree as to whether they're disciplined from a suspension all the way up through termination. Just a few weeks ago, I was standing amongst you all talking about an internal investigation that we launched related to this PPP scandal. Standing here with the U.S. Attorney General, 17 members were indicted. We put the handcuffs on them and turned them over to our federal partners. And once again,
the PPP loan scandal. You're telling me that 17 officers decided to get the PPP loan and they really ain't got no business getting the PPP loan, and you had to get rid of 17 officers off the bat? That's crazy. And you good with that? That's a real one right there, Mr. Tony, Mr. Greg Tony. Hey man, that takes a lot to just drop 17 of your men like that.
We're in a position where we had to arrest one of our own. Not something that we're proud of, but most certainly something that I'm satisfied in the sense that our Public Corruptions Unit, our Office of Inspector General, and in this particular case, our Internet Crimes Against Children are doing precisely what we need them to do in terms of holding criminals accountable. Let's skip past the fact that we're talking about a deputy. A criminal is a criminal. I don't care if you're wearing a star on your chest or if you're a civilian. We're going to treat you all the same.
Hey, I like that, because what I learned, there's this thing called a blue curtain where it doesn't matter what your fellow officer did. You don't say jack, you don't snitch. If they do it, hey man, you forget that it happened. But I really appreciate this sheriff saying like, yo, you doing some shady stuff, you ain't gonna do it in my police department. I like that. This is Palm Beach, bruh. That's where my sister lives. That's crazy.
Which means we're going to hold you accountable to the laws of this state. Unfortunately, earlier today, we had to arrest one of our deputies who's been here employed for about 6 years now. 35-year-old Deputy Thomas. He was involved in an incident where he was responding to a domestic violence call, and ideally an officer goes out to a site location with the intent to protect and serve the community, or perhaps provide resources and mitigate this particular threat that may be taking place in the household. In this particular case, you got a deputy out here who did nothing more than take advantage of his powers, abuse his authorities, and solicit sexual solicitation of a minor. Now, you all have the arrest warrant, or will have access to it and have a chance to read through it, but what I can surmise from what I've been able to read and talking to our investigators, this here is one of the most grotesque and deliberate attempts to really abuse a minor in our community. Many of you heard me say this before, and I'll continue to echo and say it again. Our most viable asset in this community are our kids. And if we can't protect them, we don't have a future not only in Broward County, but perhaps impacting the whole future of this country.
Hey, amen to that. The kids are the future. So we got to invest in them kids. We got to love on these kids. We got to discipline these kids, everything that we can. Because essentially, once we die, we die. Everything that we learn and know goes on to them, and then they continue it. But shoot, man, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. You're supposed to be a police officer, bro. Come on now.
And so to read this affidavit, this arrest warrant, and talk to our investigators and see a lot of deliberate efforts to be nothing more than a sexual predator is an insult to this agency, it's an insult to this profession, and it's an insult to everybody who ever served in this capacity. So despite the hardships of having to arrest one of our own, I'm glad that we were able to do it and prevent a child from being abused sexually or victimized in any other form or capacity. Sticking with our standard practices and protocols, because he is a sworn law enforcement officer, afforded certain rights. He will be set aside on suspension, administrative leave without pay. pending the investigation, both internally and the criminal allegations that he's going to have to face.
Now, I do want to say, Mr. Tony, I applaud you, sir, because due to the situation, you're talking really well for yourself. Nice and professional, like you know your job, you know the situation well. You did your research, even though I don't even know there's really much research to do, but just the fact that, you're just talking so well. A lot of times when sheriff officers, they come up and then they having to talk about these situations, they're very hesitant. Certain stuff they're trying to avoid saying, whatever the case may be. Yo, homie, he's on it. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he wants to say, and he, like you say, he's open. He's open. So that's what's up. That's cool. I like that.
Are there other incidences, or is I'm confused about the internet part of it, if this happened in...
Sure, so I can elaborate on that. From an investigative standpoint, once we got information and a tip that this deputy was involved in potential soliciting a minor and things of that nature, one of the things we wanted to do is to confirm those allegations and have our own internal investigation that would give us an opportunity to get facts. Facts is the most important part of this thing. In order to do that, our investigators elected to work with our Internet Crimes Against Children because they have an expertise in this arena, providing all type of information to the community, safeguard measures, and we're accustomed through ICAC with dealing with sexual predators. This is what they do. This is their expertise. Our public corruption unit are the experts in terms of internal examination, investigations, but why not tap into the best resource we have, which is our own? And so our ICAC group were part of the investigation, and in this case, pretending to be a minor and having these communications back and forth. So that's their involvement.
Yo, honestly, the fact that he knows what those other departments do, I applaud that. Like literally, a round of applause. Cause not to get on my previous work jobs, but it's like it seems like nowadays nobody knows what anybody does outside of their department, outside of their team. So the fact that he's been a real leader and really utilizing his team, his departments, the other departments, I applaud that, bro. Mr. Tony, you're all right, bro. You're all right. Like and subscribe, please.
So they did this after they heard he was doing something in person with a different minor?
With the same minor. So we'll backtrack. We go out to domestic violence call. Deputy arrives there back in September, have communications with the young girl there, 17 years of age. At some point, exchange phone numbers, have their text messages going back and forth. And throughout that texting and communicating, there had been strategic efforts to plan and meet with the minor, sexual communications, pictures being sent while on duty, exposing his penis and things of that nature. And so that really was...
Hold on. Wait. So what was the call for? Because the initial call was because they needed the police for a reason. And homeboy went and got the girl's phone number while he's supposed to be investigating a crime scene. And then you're pulling typical dog mess where you... Tell Mike. Lord have mercy.
Was part of ICAC's involvement to be able to have that expertise, allow this dialogue to continue so we can have legitimate criminal charges that go beyond just administrative concerns. I'm going to go back to what I said. It's not just about administrative compliance here. We're talking about criminal behavior of the worst kind. As a law enforcement officer, there's two things I can't stand the most. One, anyone who's willing to run inside of a church, a school, and conduct a mass shooting and kill innocent, unarmed people. It's the most cowardice behavior I can imagine. The second, sexual predators. Those going out there trying to victimize our kids because they're capitalizing on the immaturity, the lack of understanding. And if you're going to do that to a child, what else did we miss, or what else are you willing to do?
And honestly, that's a big issue with a lot of the young folk nowadays, especially the young women. Again, like I always say in the other videos, you got to discipline, you got to talk to your kids and let them know, like, yo, nobody that's like way older than you when you're a minor should be talking to you for no type of reason whatsoever. And honestly, it's a matter of really not putting them in the situation where that can happen. Be mindful. Like, don't be like, I don't want to say be all up in their business, but sometimes you got to be in their business just to know what's going on to protect them, because this is sick. quick, but it happens all the time. And then even if the dude gets caught, it's like, what influences is now instilled in her to make her, I don't know, want to continue on looking at older dudes or whatever the case may be. Maybe her viewpoint on guys has changed a little bit, which could affect how she moves later on in life. I don't know, man. That's tough.
And so when we got this thing going in terms of internal affairs, we went all in.
So Sheriff, did we have this communication of exchanging the photos and messages with ICAT, or was that also with the victim, was with both?
It's a combination of it. I think one of the things we've seen, and very good job from our Public Corruptions Unit and ICAC, was at some point we wanted to make sure that we took the minor out of this and not expose them unnecessarily to potentially getting hurt, harmed, or injured, or any other psychological damages that may come with that type of communication when you're a minor. So it's better suited to have our investigators take the lead, handle the communications, etc., just like you would see To Catch a Predator on other different shows. Very similar background in terms of they maintain the communication, they collected the evidence, and then they submitted that in one packet with our Public Corruptions Unit.
I get it. Okay. My understanding was that the girl was in communication with the officer the whole time, but I guess once they started to catch wind of what was going on, that's when the ICAD team, they're the ones that I guess took control of the situation. And like he said, like most predator videos that you see, they were the ones that was talking with the guy, receiving the text messages, probably like texting back or whatever case may be, which honestly would be weird for me because it's like people are very specific when they talk, especially when they text. When they text different, normal, maybe it's just me, you'd catch it, but I don't know. I guess he didn't care. He was just trying to, yeah.
Any indication through your investigation that this may not have been the first time and maybe there have been other kids involved?
We haven't seen any indicators that there may have been other kids involved, but I can tell you this will be his last time. There's no coming back from this.
This is going to be your last time, bro. You think you're going to be an officer after this stuff? Really? This could have been anybody's kid. This could have been my kid. You think I'm going to give you a chance? Do this again? Nah, bro. There ain't no second chances.
One thing I'm getting very annoyed with is this notion that we have to keep playing this game of due process. Those things that take place. But if you read this arrest affidavit and you look at the evidence that I looked at, there's only one outcome that's going to happen here when this case is closed.
That's who he looks like. I'm looking at him the whole time like, yo, who does this guy look like? Damon Wayans. My man look like Damon Wayans. He look like Kyle, yo. I'm looking at him the whole time like, yo, who does he look like? I can't put my finger on him. Man, my man is Kyle Wayans. That's crazy. I appreciate you, Kyle. You the real one.
You said you guys got a tip. Who did you get the tip from? His parents? Was it?
I believe.
It's like, nah, I'm gonna stop disrespecting you, bro. That's my man Greg, yo. Greg doing a great job. I appreciate you, Greg.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it was the father, correct. It was the father.
So you're talking about a 17-year-old who is involved in a domestic violence situation with her parents or guardians, and she is singled out by a deputy and then victimized herself.
Yeah, I mean, that's in a nutshell. When you're arriving to a domestic violence call, whether it be a minor or an adult, that's not the time to engage in trying to date someone or solicit a contact number or to maintain communications that are inappropriate. In this case, where you're sending nude photos while you're on duty, a multitude of different text messages of plotting and planning to meet in a hotel, all type of vulgar commentary about the type of sex components you want to supply or impose, in my opinion, upon this young lady. It's just inexcusable.
Bro. The Lord had to give me two girls. Lord, why? Lord, you are great, and I know that your spirit guides us, and I will do my part. Father, I hope. I'm still human. I need you, Lord. Please, because ain't no way. Let me stop right there. Let's keep going.
Are you concerned they ever met in person?
I'm sorry?
Do you know if they ever met in person?
That I don't know. Outside of the initial encounter, that I don't see that within the report. But again, we're talking about text messages and investigative practices. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. Maybe something discovered later on where they were met, but that's not what we have right now. Your frustration is precisely why this one here is really bothersome for me, because we're sending you out into the field after you've taken an oath to protect and serve. People call 911 when they're at their worst. They don't call us when they're at their best. And they're hoping that when we respond, when we get on scene, that the person is going to be qualified, competent, and morally sound to do the job, and they damn sure better be on time. They're not expecting to be victimized a second time by an officer's act in the sense of engaging with their daughter behind their back, texting, formulating a plan to have sex with them, and all these other variables that took place in this case. So yes, it's very egregious, and it's going to be dealt with swiftly into the severe letters that we have in this administration, and I'm going to encourage the prosecutor to make sure he pursues this aggressively.
Yeah, he's really not letting the man Thomas, Officer Thomas go, ex-Officer Thomas go. I'm going to try and keep tabs on this one. But it's definitely, and he has a valid point. When it comes to situations like this, and a lot of people don't realize this, it's kind of like that situation where it's like, not to be exact one for one, but just the emotion that comes behind it. It's kind of like when you in a breakup, you become vulnerable, you're high in emotions, and your logic kind of goes out the window. So then when somebody comes around and they kind of tend to those emotions, you're like, oh yeah, I like this, or this is comforting type thing. It's kind of the same situation. Coming in for a domestic violence, you're taking advantage of the situation that somebody's in despair or, you know, high on emotion. And when you take advantage of that, this is the time where it's like, you could be butt ugly, but because you were there, you probably get a time of day in any normal case. But in this case, it's like, yeah, take it straight advantage, especially of a minor, of a kid. All they know is emotion. Logic is like 5% of their thought process. So yeah, nah, that's a savage move.
We're not seeing this happen frequently and all the time, but all it takes is this time, and we need to hold that person accountable, because there is a ripple effect of messaging. When I'm talking to this community and updating you on affairs that are taking place in this agency, that's part of my responsibility as a constitutional officer, to educate the community. But there's a secondary impact of deterrence internally, that officers that are working here are seeing zero tolerance when it comes to any form of misconduct. If you think you're going to violate the law and manipulate documents and files and, you know, take money from the federal government, you're going to be gone. If you think it's appropriate to manipulate a young 17-year-old kid into sex, you're going to be gone. If you think that you're going to go ahead and violate, 65 times in 5 years I've had to stand here and terminate someone. 17 just a week ago. And here's another one. I will keep standing here as many times as it takes until every damn body in this agency gets the message.
Yo, to have to fire that many people in a year, I don't know. I'm no HR, I'm no manager. It's just crazy how, like, just keep hearing all these turnarounds because of crazy stuff that people are doing on the job. But I mean, you could lie on resumes, you could talk good and all that stuff, and I don't know, you can have 2 people, cousins or relatives that can vet for you, and then you win. But again, Sheriff Tony, bro, you doing your thing, bro. That blue curtain, tearing that sucker down, ripping that thing, shredding that thing down, bro. I appreciate that. Because that was one of the biggest issues, like in the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. But having officers, sheriffs like you in charge, that's really like holding these guys accountable and making sure that they doing what they need to, because this is what they signed up for. Bro, you the man, bro. You're the man.
Honestly, I don't know all the ins and outs of what he did over the last 6 years, but I'm going to tell you what I tell every new cadet. You're only as good as the last call you're on. I don't care if he won one of our most prestigious Medal of Honors. It doesn't matter. It's what he did on this particular case that sizes up his entire career and the end of his career.
And it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, for a second, I was like, yeah, but people make mistakes. This is not a mistake, bro. A lot of times you really got to rationalize and really like plan out every decision that you make. And especially depending on your role, you have to be aware and mindful of every single decision that you make, because it could be the last in whatever position that you hold. It's as simple as that.
We'll get it over to you if we can.
Clarify, this is a teenage girl or teenage boy?
Girl.
Teenage girl?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say that you just got into the meeting. Let me just leave it at that. Hey, man, that's an interesting one. But again, yo, these Florida people, y'all crazy. Y'all got cops out here that's trying to do some shady stuff, but they got people like Sheriff Greg out here in the streets. Bro, y'all ain't going nowhere. You think you're going to be a cop? No, you're going to be, I'm just trying to be nice. You going to be somewhere else, but you ain't going to be no officer. Not in Palm Beach County or wherever he was at. All right, y'all, we taking it. We out of here. Till next one, peace.